Yesterday in class, we started learning about the skills for learning that are going to be really important for helping you be strong learners this year. We talked about two different skills for learning. Pause the video now and see if you can remember what those skills were. The first skill for learning was focus attention. We talked about how when you focus attention, you concentrate, you use your eyes, your ears, and your brain, and you ignore distractions around you. If you do these things, you can really focus your attention on the thing you're learning. The other skill for learning we talked about was listening. We learned that when you listen, you focus on the speaker, you wait your turn to speak, you remember what you hear, and you think of questions while you're listening to ask when the speaker is finished. We also talked about this girl named Sia. And Sita is in a math lesson in her classroom, and she's explaining how to find the vertices on the corners of this prism. And remember how we noticed that all of these kids in her class are really using their learning behaviors to be good listeners and learners? We talked about how we can tell that they're focusing their attention and listening by turning their faces towards Sita, by concentrating, and by focusing on the speaker. And then remember, we practiced using those learning skills together in our Zoom class. Today, what we're going to do is make our own cards for our own learning spaces at home so that we can always have some good visual reminders of these learning behaviors we want to practice and get really strong at. So keep watching the video and I'm going to show you how you can make your own cards for focusing attention and listening at home. Okay, once you've found your piece of paper, you're going to need to divide it into two parts. So I'm going to fold mine up like this from the bottom. I'm going to line up the edges to make sure the parts are the same size. And then I'm going to bring my finger down and crease it really firmly so the crease is nice and straight. Now I'm going to open it back up and I'm going to cut this piece of paper apart. If you don't have scissors at home, what you can do is keep creasing it over and over again on both directions. And once you've done that several times, the paper will get weak enough that you can probably rip it along that line. If you do have scissors though, I encourage you to use them so that you get a nice straight line. Okay, now I've got two pieces of paper. I'm going to put one aside for my second card and I'm going to start with the first card. Next, you're going to need to make a straight line. And I'm going to start by using a pencil because I might make a mistake and I want to be able to erase it easily. I don't have a ruler at home to make a straight line, which is what I would use if I was in the classroom. So instead, I'm going to use a notebook that I have here. This is my calendar planner. And I'm just going to use the edge of this notebook to make a straight line. So I want my line to be down along the bottom because that's where I'm going to write the words about that learning skill. So I don't want it right at the bottom because I want some space to write about what that skill means to me. So I'm going to move my straight line up a little bit from the bottom, maybe about that much. It doesn't have to be exact. And then I'm going to draw my straight line across. And when I take the book away, I should have a nice straight line, and I do. Next, I need to write the name of the skill. So I'm going to start with the first one, which was focus attention. And I think I'm going to write this in with a black pen so that it shows up really well. And I'm going to use a hard surface underneath just so that my pen works really well. And remember, we learned when we made our name tags that if you still see pencil marks underneath your pen, that's okay because we can go back and erase them afterwards. Okay, now I need to write down what focusing attention means to me. What will I do when I focus attention? If you remember the things that the cards I showed you had on them, you can write those, or you can write what the skill means to you. So I'm thinking about when I focus attention on somebody speaking, I like to make sure my eyes are facing the speaker. So I'm going to do a little bullet point. That just looks like a small little dot. And I'm going to write eyes facing the speaker. Something else that I want to make sure I do when I focus my attention is not be moving my body. If I'm moving my body, chances are my brain is focusing on something else and not the speaker. So I'm going to say keep my body still. And I think I'm going to put one more thing on here that is about focusing your attention. The last thing that I want to really make sure I'm doing when I'm focusing my attention is ignoring anything around me. And I think that was one of the parts that was on the card that I showed you too. So now I know we talked about some other skills for focusing attention, like making sure you're using your eyes and your brain and your ears and concentrating, which for me, those are important too, but these are the 3 things I'm really going to focus and make sure I do when I practice focusing attention. And since I came up with them in my own words, I think they're going to be more meaningful and memorable for me. Once I've had my writing down and I'm happy with how it looks, I'm going to start on my drawing. So first I'm going to make that line nice and dark so that I know I can't put any of my drawing underneath it. Sorry, 3rd graders, I had to find my marker. So I have a black marker here. I'm going to outline my line with a black marker so that it's nice and dark and I know my boundary for my drawing. There we go. Now I'm going to think about what a picture would look like that means focusing attention. The picture that we learned in the card is a face with somebody using just their eyes focused to listen. And I'm kind of thinking of a very similar picture. I said that I want my eyes facing the speaker, I want to keep my body still, and I want to ignore distractions. So I'm going to draw a very similar picture of my face really close up with just my eyes and my mouth closed. I'm going to use my pencil first. So I want my head to take up most of the space. So I'm going to draw kind of an oval shape for my head. And then my eyes are about halfway up in the oval. So I'm going to draw them about here. And then of course I have eyelashes. And I'm taking a lot of time on the eyes and really drawing a lot of detail because the eyes are the main part of the drawing I want to focus on. Eyes were an important piece of my learning skill, so I want to make sure that they kind of stand out at the end of the drawing when the drawing is finished. Okay. And then I'm going to add a nose and a mouth, but I'm probably not going to spend quite so much detail on my nose and mouth because, like I said, I want my eyes to kind of pop out. Go. All right, and then of course I have hair. I'm going to draw my hair. And when I go add color later, this will kind of come together. But for now I'm sketching. And when we sketch something, we don't really need to spend a lot of time making sure it looks perfect, because we know we're going to add color later. This is more to get our plan on paper. And then I think because I really want to point out that we're focusing our attention, this isn't just a regular picture of a face. I think I'm going to draw some arrows So I'm gonna draw an arrow to the eyes, and I'm gonna label my drawing, eyes focused. And then I might even put body still, because she's not moving. Once I'm happy with my picture, I can start adding colors. Now, if you have crayons at home, I would recommend you use crayons or colored pencils. I don't have crayons at home, which is a real bummer. I'm gonna need to go buy some, I think. But right now I only have markers, so I'm gonna use markers. I don't recommend using markers for this because they're gonna be really fat and they might make the drawing look kind of messy, but it's what I have, so that's what I'm gonna do. So I'm gonna color in my hair. Now I'm gonna keep going and add color. You don't need to watch me do that the whole time, but once I'm happy with my drawing, that's when I'm adding my color. I'm not gonna start off with my color. Notice I started with my pencil to make sure that the drawing was really what I wanted to portray or show for this learning skill of focusing attention. Now you need to get your other blank piece of paper and do the same thing again, but this time your learning skill is listening. Okay, now it's your turn to do it. Remember, you're making 2 different cards. 1 card for focusing attention and 1 card for listening. When you're all finished, you'll have some really great visual reminders you can put in your learning space. Good luck, 3rd graders. I can't wait to see how they turn out.